So now that you know the basics of perspective, let's figure out how to measure in perspective. So we're just going to draw the simple horizon line. And in 2-point perspective, the easiest way to draw the perspective, say we want to do a grid on the floor. So the first thing is we start off with a point, we go left to left, right to right. All right, and then because we're looking at it as a diagonal angle, we can actually draw straight across, and drawing straight across gives you that whole aspect of the corners of your grid. So then what you're going to do is draw left to left or right to right. Sorry, I did that backwards. And that's the first section of your grid. And then from there, you're going to draw a line straight across, and that corner is going to give you the whole aspects of your grid. And again, you move to the next step, so something like this, and I'm just going to go to the outer corners, so like so. And so as you see, you can keep doing this, and you're eventually just going to build a nice grid. Now, you could draw this line straight through, and it works fine, but it just kind of makes it messy. And the less lines you have on here, the easier it is to pay attention. So from there, you can draw, we're just going to stick with 2-point. So from there, I can say, okay, I'm going to draw a building up here. And I remember left to left, right to right. And I'm going to draw this face up here. And let's go from this one back, like so. Draw straight up. And let's, now, if you have an issue where, like I've drawn, I'm not going to erase this, but you can see the box starting to form here. And I'm just, ignore the helicopter. I live next to a hospital, so occasionally we get a flyby. So say you want to, you've got your points. Now notice everything here, as it gets closer to the horizon line, is starting to disappear. It's not as deep as this. Now, one of the things you want to, if you want, and say you can build these blocks. Say you're doing like an L-shaped building. So I'm just going to, we're just going to trace. So this is your L-shaped building. Okay. Now, what we can do is instead of drawing from here upward all the way up, you can actually draw from the vanishing point across, like so, and then this line goes straight up and matches that point. So this is a lot of lines, and I'm not going to deny that it isn't. Just by drawing an L-shaped building, I have a ton of lines in there, and it's starting to get hard to read. That's when you want to go in with an eraser and decide, okay, this is what I don't need. So we just start taking off, and sometimes it's even better to just kind of trace over it with a new sheet of paper. So something like this. I'm just going to kind of scribble this out. And this is the second thing that gets people the most confused with drawing perspective, is they tend to just get confused with the number of lines that are out there. Okay, so there is your perspective, and it's you know, you just pretty much build up your shapes, and you just keep working at it and working at it until you get what you want. All right, so that's how to measure a grid in perspective. Now let's go over a little bit, and we're going to measure objects in perspective. So say you have an object that repeats, okay? And I'm going to do this in two different areas. So the first part is you have an object that repeats. So we're going to just set up this block here. And I'm just going to really quickly. Like so. And this is our box here. Very simple. So now what you have to understand is that if you have this object that repeats, you want to tile this object, and it's going to get smaller as it goes further away. So what you have to understand is you have an object. Doesn't matter if it's a box or whatever it is. So first thing you need to do is you need to find the center point. And by finding the center point is something as simple as drawing an X. The X marks the spot, if you will. And that center point, what's happening with that center point is it's dividing that box into two sections. So from here, I'm going to need that line across. Okay? Now, if you know how to get the center point, you know how to create the center point. All you need is two spots. So if I draw directly horizontal like that, and or across the center point like this, and then I continue with these lines. Alright, and that one's a little bit low. Let me do that one. Can't do these. So if you've gone through the center point, you can simply say, okay, that one goes there, this one comes down. Now, this center point is a little bit high. I probably should have drawn it a little bit lower to match up. So something like this, and that's going to make the object really very simple, very easy. So clone of that object. So same thing with this. If we just draw through the center point here, and then draw down. Oops. And this is another thing. If you do not draw vertical on 2-point perspective, you're going to start getting angles, and that's going to throw everything off. So make sure you draw it right on the 2-point perspective. So now I can keep drawing this X through the center point and then down through the center. And every time I do, it'll get a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller. And again, just make sure you get that center point. So now from there, I can actually go back and continue to get things smaller and smaller and smaller. Alright, so that's pretty much how to draw size relationships using the grid and using the X to go and get the rest of the line work. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you guys how to do is circles. Okay, and to draw a circle, what you need to understand is that a circle is pretty much a square. Okay, and in perspective, it would be, I'm just going to draw a kind of a faux perspective here. So this is the front face, this is the angled view. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to find your centers, much like measuring. So same thing here, I'll just draw the centers. And by doing that, I'm going to get the center crossed, and I'm also going to get the center down. I'm just trying to find the exact center here. My registration's a little bit off on my Wacom here. Let me start from the side. There we go. So there's one, and there's two. Okay, so the same thing here. I need to go from the center. I need to go right through the center like so. And you need to find that registration point and go up. So now, with that in mind, I can actually just go from corner points, and what I'm doing is I'm just making a diamond. like so. And that is going to give me a series of X's like so. Now, from there, there's two different ways to do it. So there's this step, and then there's a step further this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all this, and I'm just going to move this up here a little bit, and I'm going to copy this and move it down here. I think that's in our view. So now from this point, what you can do is you can stop here and simply measure the midpoints of your angles and kind of sketch in the way a circle would be. And that's pretty close to it. Same thing here, you just find those midpoints. So it's going to go like so, like so, like so, and like that. So that's the initial step to creating a circle. To go further and be a little bit more precise, what you would do is divide this grid into a smaller grid, and let's do something like this. All right. So there's our smaller grid, and we can do the same thing here. It's a little bit off, but we'll make do. That's really off. I don't like that one. So now what we can do is, this is where the lines get really, really confusing. What you're going to do is you're going to draw, and I'll just do this in a different, little bit different color. Let's go with a kind of a dark blue. So now what we can do is you're going to draw pretty much an X on the outer boxes. And this may seem weird because it's, and I'll do the same thing on this side. Alright, so you're going to draw an X on the outer boxes, and the reason you're doing that is because what it's doing is it's actually plotting out. Let's go with a color you guys can see. Let's go with a little bit of an orange. That's fine. So what you're doing is you're taking the X's that lie up on the outer edges of the box. So if you divide these triangles inside in half, it's the two outer X's, and you're also doing the midpoints. So it's kind of like the outer corners here. And then it's pretty much just connect the dots. So like so. And then the same thing that happens there. Now again, it gets a little bit awkward, so just kind of do your best, and that's why a lot of lines make it really confusing. So you're just kind of going through. And like so. So that pretty much knocks down your triangle. Now they're relatively close. Both of them are relatively the same. So it's just a matter of going through and doing that. So there is your measuring in perspective.